It's 2 a.m. The room is dark, everyone around you is asleep, and your mind is conducting a trial, replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, dissecting every word, every pause, every expression you can't quite remember any. Nothing is wrong, no one is coming for you, and yet something deep inside your skull is running at full capacity, burning energy, generating heat, refusing to stop. You tell yourself, just stop thinking, and somehow that makes it worse. Here is what no one has told you about that moment. That is not weakness. That is not an anxiety disorder. That is a 300,000-year-old survival machine doing exactly what it was engineered to do. The tragedy is, it was never engineered for your life, the machine that never shuts off. Your brain has one directive, not happiness, not clarity, not peace, survival. And for 99% of human history, survival demanded one thing above everything else: never stop scanning for threats. Imagine your ancestor standing at the edge of a forest 100,000 years ago. The grass moves. One question determines everything: wind or predator. The ancestor who assumed wind, relaxed, didn't react, sometimes became the meal. The ancestor who assumed predator, tensed, stayed alert, moved, survived. Evolution is ruthless mathematics. Over hundreds of thousands of years, it didn't select for calm minds. It selected for paranoid ones. The brains that survived were the ones that kept asking, but what if something goes wrong? Scientists call this the negativity bias. Your brain is neurologically wired to weight threats more heavily than safety, to encode danger more vividly than comfort. That is not a character flaw. That is ancient engineering. Brutal, effective, precise. The problem: evolution never received the update that you moved into an apartment. The mismatch. Your brain still believes you live on the savanna. It still processes social rejection as a death sentence because 100,000 years ago it was. Get cast out of your tribe for saying the wrong thing? No food, no shelter, no protection from the dark. You die. So your brain evolved to obsess over social signals, to replay conversations at 2 a.m., to analyze micro-expressions on faces you haven't seen in years, to ask, did I say something wrong? Am I still safe inside the group? This response even has a clinical name: amygdala hijack. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, cannot distinguish between a lion in the grass and an unanswered text message. To the amygdala, both are threats requiring immediate response. Both trigger the same cascade of cortisol, the same elevated heart rate, the same compulsive need to resolve the danger. Except one danger has no resolution. So the brain loops. Now consider what your brain was actually calibrated to handle: immediate physical threats visible within 50 feet, a social circle of 20 to 50 people, problems solvable within hours through direct action. Now consider what you are asking it to process: hundreds of digital relationships simultaneously, career decisions with consequences spanning 4 decades, and a continuous stream of curated information, manufactured outrage, and social comparison delivered into your palm every 3 minutes. The average person today processes approximately 74 gigabytes of information every single day, more information in 24 hours than a medieval scholar encountered in an entire lifetime. Your brain was not upgraded to handle this. You simply handed a 300,000-year-old machine a job description it was never written for, and it is doing what it always did: scanning, analyzing, hunting for threats. Except now there is no predator in the grass, so it turns inward and begins hunting you instead. The dark loop. Here is where it becomes dangerous. Overthinking does not merely feel destructive, it is structurally destructive. Every time you replay a negative thought, your brain reinforces what neuroscientists call a neural pathway, a groove carved deeper with every repetition. The more you overthink, the easier it becomes to overthink. The easier it becomes, the more automatic it gets, until the brain requires no trigger, no bad memory, no real event. It simply runs the loop because the loop is now the path of least resistance. A study confirmed that chronic ruminators, people who repeatedly mentally revisit unresolved problems, showed dramatically elevated rates of depression and anxiety, not because their lives were objectively worse, but because their brains had confused thinking about a problem with solving a problem. They are not the same thing.
Your ancient brain evolved to solve problems through action. Run from the predator, build the shelter, cross the river. But modern threats, am I enough? Will this work out? What do they think of me? Have no physical action attached to them. So the brain loops, certain it is working, going absolutely nowhere. And here is the number that should disturb you most. Researchers tracked thousands of people across their daily lives and found that the human mind is absent from the present moment 46.9% of the time. Nearly half of your waking existence, not here, not present, somewhere else entirely. Somewhere darker. Your ancestors spent their days in relentless physical engagement. Their minds had immediate targets, immediate feedback, immediate consequence.
You spend your days largely stationary. In your brain, ancient, relentless, built for a world that no longer exists, manufactures the threats it was designed to find. The neuroscience of actually stopping. Now here is where most content fails you. They tell you to breathe, to journal, to think positively, as if 300,000 years of evolutionary engineering bends to a morning routine. It doesn't. What actually interrupts the loop requires understanding what is architecturally driving it. When your mind has no specific task, no immediate problem demanding focused attention, a network of brain regions activates automatically. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, the DMN. This is the neurological home of overthinking, of rumination, of the mind that will not stop replaying 2 a.m. conversations. The DMN is not a malfunction. It evolved for a purpose, consolidating memories, simulating future scenarios, processing social information. But in a modern human with too much idle time and too few genuine physical threats, the DMN runs unchecked, and it consumes you. The first genuine interruption is cognitive absorption. When the brain locks into a task demanding genuine, layered attention, complex problem solving, learning something genuinely difficult, deep creative work, the prefrontal cortex re-engages fully. The DMN goes quiet, not suppressed, not distracted, structurally deactivated. This is why the ancient hunter didn't ruminate mid-chase. The tracking demanded everything: full sensory attention, pattern recognition, predictive modeling. There was no cognitive space left for the loop. The modern equivalent is not a casual walk. It is deep, structured engagement with something genuinely hard, something that punishes distraction immediately, something your brain cannot half process. The second interruption operates at a different level entirely: metacognition, the capacity to observe your own thinking without becoming it. Psychologists call one specific technique cognitive defusion. The premise is precise. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are events passing through your consciousness the way weather passes through a sky. The sky does not become the storm. When you are inside an overthinking loop, you have fused with the thought. You are not observing, I am having the thought that I failed. You are experiencing, I am a failure. The neurological difference between those two states is measurable. When subjects practiced cognitive diffusion, labeling thoughts as thoughts rather than facts, the amygdala activation reduced significantly. The threat signal quieted, not because the thought disappeared, but because the brain stopped treating it as reality. And the third, perhaps the most psychologically demanding of all, tolerating unresolved uncertainty. The ancient brain loops because it believes that sustained thinking will eventually produce certainty, and certainty equaled survival. But most of what modern humans ruminate over has no certain answer available. The loop is not a malfunction in search of a solution. It is a psychological immune response to the unbearable sensation of not knowing.
And the only honest exit is learning through repeated, deliberate exposure that sitting inside uncertainty will not kill you. That process is slow, it is not comfortable, it was never designed to be, but it is the only neurologically honest path out of a loop your brain was never meant to escape on its own. The ending. The same brain that dismantles your sleep at 2 a.m. kept your ancestors breathing through ice ages, famines, and predators that would have erased weaker minds entirely. You are not broken. You are the living product of the most ruthlessly effective survival architecture evolution ever produced. But here is the question that should follow you out of this video. If your brain was optimized for a world that no longer exists, if the threats it manufactures are ones it invented, if nearly half your life passes while your mind is somewhere else entirely, then who is actually living your life? Your ancient brain, still hunting shadows on a savanna that disappeared 10,000 years ago? Or you? Maybe the most unsettling thing about being human is that most of us will never know the difference.